Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Corombos of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
So glad you're with us for the Friday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. As you know, Jim Garrity is on vacation. Here in his place today is Jon Gabriel, who is the undisputed king of stuff. He is also a columnist with Discourse Magazine at the Mercatus Center, also the Arizona Republic. And Jon, happy Friday. Great to have you with us again.
Oh, great to be here. A great way to end the week.
Exactly. Should also point out, of course, that Jon is the author of the fantastic World War II submarine novel, Sink the Rising Sun. He is hard at work on the sequel, and can't wait for that to come out.
No spoilers, but the good guys win World War II. So I'll drop that little hint, that teaser.
Thanks for that. All right. Well, let's dig right into our first martini here. And for that, we head to Politico, actually, which says the leaders of Armenia and Azerbaijan plan to sign a joint declaration at the White House on Friday, committing to a peace deal facilitated by the Trump administration that would end nearly 4 decades of conflict between the two countries. Both nations are also expected to sign agreements expanding bilateral ties with Washington, a breakthrough made possible because the U.S. helped to resolve a dispute over the development of a shared transit corridor, according to 3 U.S. officials. And Jon, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on Armenia and Azerbaijan relations and what it took to reach a peace deal. I do know there was some serious ethnic cleansing going on not that long ago in this particular conflict. But the point of the Good Martini today is the larger picture here. This is the 4th different peace deal worked out by the Trump administration this year. There was India, Pakistan, when they had their skirmishes going back and forth and things like they could escalate pretty darn quickly. Then there was Congo and Rwanda. Then Thailand and Cambodia just a couple of weeks ago. Now Armenia, Azerbaijan. Plus, you've got the Abraham Accords, which the president forged among Israel and the UAE and Bahrain before leaving office in 2021. And then others were added. I think Morocco ended up as part of that. So if this had been any other president, I think you'd be getting a ton of credit for this. But because it's Donald Trump, the media is reluctant to do so. And we'll see how long these agreements last and how strong they are. But the fact that they're this interested in rolling up their sleeves and getting them done and getting results, I think is worthy of attention.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. I have a couple Armenian friends, and so I've been hearing about this conflict for years. The media has barely reported on it. But yes, there was ethnic cleansing going around, a lot of very ugly things going on. Turkey and Russia were both on Azerbaijan's side. So for Trump to kind of go in there and solve the seemingly intractable problem is another example of peace through strength. And I know people will laugh, especially those foreign policy dilettantes at Foggy Bottom, but there's a good case that Trump, if he had a different name, he would be winning the Nobel Peace Prize. I think it would be he'd be a shoo-in at this point. You mentioned all these conflicts he's been involved in mediating. He's barely been president, 6-7 months. And Obama won the Nobel Peace Prize in his first year, too, for doing nothing. It's because he talked
potential.
Pretty.
It was his potential.
Exactly. They talked about all the great potential this fella has. And Americans have won the Nobel Peace Prize more than any other nationality by a long shot, several presidents. And they've also given it to winners like Yasser Arafat in the past. I think the people should stop sniffing and start submitting his name, because I think the big one with this, too, is you had the Iran-Israel ceasefire. We will see if that holds. And just the amazing results of the Abraham Accords. He completely ignored the foreign policy dictum that, we need a 2-state solution. We need to bring people to Camp David to hammer things out. We got to bring them to this conference room in Brussels to hammer things out. And he just said, look, people like money. Hey, yep. if you want to sign this deal, you'll have more money because you'll have trade and we'll get rid of all these barriers. And we'll stop this. Well, we need to make Israel the bad guy to placate our domestic audience, as so many of these Arab countries had done in the past. They were all desperate to get off this stupid, lost cause for Palestine, who are just being utterly intractable. These various countries surrounding Palestine refuse to let refugees in their country because in the past they've led insurrections due to our peace winner Yasser Arafat. So, yeah, this should be getting far more attention by the press. We know why it isn't, but it really is a remarkable reminder, as those of us of a certain vintage saw during the Reagan years, who came on after Jimmy Carter, just like peace through strength, folks. It works. And he didn't have to threaten or cajole. He mostly just said, look, we'll normalize relations with you. Maybe I'll drop your tariffs 5%. And that's all it took.
No, that's exactly right. And there are principals from the Congo-Rwanda conflict and Thailand-Cambodia who are actually nominating Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. But given the way that whole organization has tilted, especially on that particular award over the years, it's not going to happen. But nonetheless, it's definitely worthy of the nomination. And I'll be curious to see who they give it to just to spite Donald Trump. But I think it has not gotten enough attention also what you articulated there, because basically the Trump foreign policy in dealing with these conflicts is, look, I know you guys hate each other. You hate each other for all sorts of different reasons. It's cultural, it's religious, it's just regional. I don't know. It goes back centuries in a lot of cases. I'm not going to solve that. But here's my idea. Let's all get filthy rich. And so you sign this, you sign this. Let's trade. Let's have travel. Let's have our economies thrive. And guess what? Once that's happening, you probably won't worry about all the petty stuff. I don't know how long it's going to last. I'm sure these old tensions and hatreds will flare up at various times, but it's a very different way of approaching things. And so far, it seems to be working.
Yeah, absolutely. He is a deal maker. He loves making deals, and peace deals are a lot more interesting than some kind of real estate transaction on Long Island. So, yeah, whatever it takes to get people to set down their guns and get along, as anyone who's seen or read the I Pencil essay, very, very famous libertarian-ish free market essay, is just like, look, if people are working together towards a profit, they don't care about the other stuff as much. They realize soon, and after you do that 10, 15 years, you start realizing, look, I don't hate these guys as much as I thought I did. We've been getting along great.
Yeah, figure out a way to keep their focus on something else and something positive. And so, and of course, he's been trying to get an end to the Russia-Ukraine war. I know a lot of folks in favor of Ukraine would say he was kind of late to the game in criticizing Putin, but he's definitely doing that now. He tried to broker a ceasefire with Hamas and Israel, but like you said, you got to have both sides actually wanting an end to the to the conflict and willing to release hostages and all this stuff. So some things are even beyond that, but the accomplishments that we have seen so far are certainly worthy of notice. So congratulations to him, and congratulations to Marco Rubio and everybody else who's part of these negotiations and these accomplishments. So, well, if you're trying to broker peace and end a war, that can be a stressful process, and maybe you've got a few more lines in the skin as a result of that. So, guys, the good news is Caldera Lab is here for you. Their high-performance skincare is designed specifically for men, simple, effective, and backed by science. In a consumer study, 100% of men said their skin looked smoother and healthier. 97% noticed improved hydration and texture, and 94% reported a more youthful appearance. I've been using the cleanser, just used it this morning. Feels so good, so fresh. Feels like my skin on my face is always ready to go. And so there's so many different levels of Caldera. They've got the good, the eye serum, the base layer. They have cutting-edge formulas, and they have rigorous research and development cycles. Every product takes years to develop, test, and perfect. And if they don't love it, they don't release it. And so that's a pretty good standard, I think. So upgrade your skincare with Caldera Lab. It's easy, effective, and made for men. Skip the drugstore and try it for yourself. Visit calderalab.com/3ml and use the code 3ml for 20% off your first order. Again, that's calderalab.com/3ml with the code 3ml for 20% off. All right, John, on to our bad martini now. And for that, we go to the pages of the New York Post and the columnist Miranda Devine, who is probably most famous for her book, The Laptop from Hell, related to Hunter Biden and that laptop, which we were told, of course, in late 2020, just before the election, well, had all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. All those intelligence and national security figures who were obviously trying to put their thumb on the scale for Joe Biden. And as it turned out, of course, the laptop was very much real. All of it was real. But now, Miranda Devine reporting on something different, but something we heard about last year during the 2024 campaign, and that's that as FEMA was responding to Hurricane Helene and all the damage, especially in North Carolina, but in other states, from Florida all the way up to North Carolina, that FEMA wasn't treating everyone equally in terms of their disaster recovery needs, and specifically, they were accused of skipping houses with Trump signs. And that seemed very partisan, very weird, very unusual. But here's what Miranda Devine writes. The Biden administration abused its power by turning the entire mechanism of the federal government into a Democratic voter mobilization campaign, according to newly unearthed White House documents viewed exclusively by the Post. The worst offender was FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, under the Department of Homeland Security, which was controlled for 4 years by, and this is her words, Biden's Machiavellian border buster, Alejandro Mayorkas. When responding to an emergency or natural disaster, FEMA employees were directed to make voter registration a key priority. They politically targeted vulnerable people in their hour of need instead of focusing on providing federal assistance. Left-wing NGOs were brought in to educate FEMA staff about equity and voter access for individuals affected by a disaster. And so one of the officials who's there now says FEMA's job is to make sure Americans who have suffered catastrophic loss due to some disaster in their community can access food, water, and shelter. Under President Biden, FEMA, like every agency, produced a plan on how they would leverage these crisis situations for political purposes. I can't think of anything more disgusting. And John, I'm sure you remember as well as I do that there are a lot of people in North Carolina and elsewhere saying, where is FEMA? What are they doing? It was private organizations like Samaritan's Purse and others who were actually coming in there to help clean up and find shelter for these people. FEMA had people shivering in tents well into the colder temperatures later in the year. And now it turns out that one of the reasons they were so inefficient and ineffective is because helping people wasn't their mission. Their mission was to elect Democrats.
Yeah, it's just completely gross. It's one of those things. If some talk show host on the right had suggested that basically the role of FEMA was to register voters to the Democratic Party, they would be laughed off as conspiracy theorists. It seems like there was no low to which the Biden administration didn't want to stoop, especially since their president wasn't exactly paying attention. And so you have these lifelong bureaucrats saying, hey, maybe we can get more power out of these people who just lost their homes, whose neighborhoods are trash, whose businesses have been flattened. It's just really disgusting. And I hate using can you imagine if a Republican president did this kind of thing and what the press would be saying? But it's just been so blatant the past 10, 20 years, how they want to put their thumb on the scales and make excuses for their preferred team. FEMA is there to help people, period. And that's what you're there to do. It doesn't matter if they vote, who they voted for, who they might vote for in the future. And I think a lot of people saw what happened in North Carolina as well as just very strange, very suspicious. You would think, if nothing else, a politician would be crowing about how much they're helping. Yes. Hey, let's do photo ops. Look what a great guy I am. We are on top of things. Instead, they just ignored it. The press was more willing to report on, a hailstorm in D.C. because that's national news, but ignore these hurricanes, which has devastated all that upcountry region of the Carolinas. So good on Miranda Devine. Everybody read her stuff. She's good people, as we say, out here in the Sonoran Desert. But good for her for revealing this finally. We saw so many things during the Biden administration that just looked odd. And FEMA was one of 1,000 of them. And it's good that the skeletons are being kicked out of the closet so everybody can know how bad it had gotten.
Yeah, I mean, how craven do you have to be? How bad are your political instincts that your instinct wouldn't be, first of all, to help people just because they need help. But secondly, that's the best political benefit you could get from this, is to show how effective you are. Your people are hands-on. You're getting stuff done. instead of basically abandoning people because of a political agenda. I mean, you look at DeSantis. There was a hurricane in Florida, of course. There's several hurricanes in Florida during his time as governor. And there was a bridge washed out to an island just off I think it was the Gulf Coast. And within days, there was a temporary bridge ready to go, and people could get on and off the island. And things are moving. You have to have a plan in place, and there's competence and there's incompetence. And the Biden FEMA arrangement was not working well. Now, I know there are reports out there that the Trump administration is potentially making relief funds contingent or more difficult for states that have announced boycotts on Israel. And I would say that as much as I hate the boycotting of Israel that these states are doing, I think it's completely ridiculous. I don't think that disaster relief, should it be needed, should be contingent on that either.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Unless you want to go full, I'm partial to a Calvin Coolidge style presidency where anytime a state would face some kind of natural disaster, he's like, it's not federal government's problem. You guys fix it. That did not serve him well in the polls, but I'm kind of old school about these things. But if the federal government is going to provide help, provide it to every American. Even in hardcore Democratic strongholds like California, there's just a lot of people who don't care about politics, who are voting R every time they get a chance. They all need help out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a big Coolidge fan, too. There was a massive flood that he had that exact response to. It's not the federal government's job, not popular. Then there was a massive flood right in his own territory of Vermont when he was president. And he's like, still not the federal government's job to clean this up. So, I mean, you could disagree or agree with the position, but at least he was consistent about a limited federal role, even in that situation. So on to our great sponsor, new this week, Dose. Over 30% of Americans have a sluggish liver. Are you one of them? A sluggish liver is a problem that often goes undetected until the very last minute, but Dose is on a mission to educate us all on why it's so important to maintain your liver health, and it's created an incredible product to help you do just that. Dose for Your Liver was formulated to cleanse your liver of unwanted elements, aid digestion, and maintain your body's filter. The science-backed formula promotes liver function, aids digestion, eases bloating. It also provides less brain fog, better sleep, and it's gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, and vegan. Support your health with Dose Daily. Save 25% on your first month when you subscribe at dosedaily.co/3ml or enter the code 3ml at checkout. Please note, though, the 25% discount applies only to subscription orders, not one-time purchases. Cancel anytime, no hassle. That's dosedaily.co/3ml to get 25% off your first monthly subscription with the code 3ml. All right, John, on to our crazy martini now. And as we end the week, this one doesn't deal specifically with state or national politics, but it does deal with bureaucratic stupidity. And so we might as well do this at the end of the week here. And of course, the NFL preseason is upon us. Tampa Bay Buccaneers have recently signed as a backup Teddy Bridgewater, who was probably most successful, most famous in his time as a Minnesota Viking a few years ago. And John, I know you're a Packer fan and I'm a Bear fan, and let's just say the Vikings aren't our favorite, but Teddy Bridgewater is getting a raw deal. Not for signing with the Bucs, but the reason he signed with the Bucs is because he was suspended as a high school football coach in a very difficult neighborhood in the Miami area. PJ Media with the story. So Teddy Bridgewater officially retired from playing professional ball a couple of years ago. Now he's playing again, but he took a job coaching the football team at his alma mater, Miami Northwestern High School. Now, Miami Northwestern is located in Liberty City. PJ Media says that's a neighborhood that has seen its fair share of crime in the past. Many of the students who attend the school, at least 75%, are at an economic disadvantage, and 72 qualify for a free lunch under the National School Lunch Act. Now, in his first year as head coach, Bridgewater led the team to the Class 3A Florida High School Athletic Association state title. In other words, things seemed to be going well until last month when the school suspended Bridgewater from the position, claiming that he provided the players with impermissible benefits. Boy, that sounds serious and very sinister, but so what exactly did he do? Well, the story goes on to say that, again, it's kind of a rough neighborhood. Bridgewater was paying for Uber rides for the kids so they wouldn't have to walk home after practice through crime-ridden areas. He was buying them food so that they weren't hungry all day and playing a grueling sport without proper nutrition. He was paying to keep the field painted with the right lines and numbers so the kids understood how to play the game. He was buying them matching clothing so they looked and felt like a team. He even paid $14,000 to run a training camp and registration fees for all football players and cheerleaders to participate in the same youth programs he had access to as a child, and he did it all out of his own pocket. He then went on Facebook asking if others wanted to donate so they could keep these programs going, and a week later he was suspended, and the Florida High School Athletic Association launched an investigation. And so, Jon, I guess in some cases rules are rules, but these are dumb rules. This is a guy who is not only looking out for his kids, he's willing to put down a lot of his own resources to make it happen, to keep them alive, to keep them healthy, and to give them an opportunity to do something that could really benefit them down the road. But of course, no good deed goes unpunished by bureaucrats at the school and possibly even state officials.
Yeah, despite not being a big fan of the Vikings, for my struggles on this mortal coil, people should know I'm in a mixed marriage. I'm a Packers fan. My wife's a rabid Vikings fan. So I've heard a lot about Teddy Bridgewater for many years. Great guy. One of the real champs, one of the good guys. Older folks will remember a fellow like Tony Dungy, who is just a decent guy trying to help out his people. And this is what Teddy Bridgewater did. He was making a difference in these kids' lives, went back to his old, this should be like a Hallmark movie, goes back to his old high school in a rough part of town, coaches the kids, gets them to training camp. Yeah, and doing outrageous, excessive things like buying them fur coats. Oh no, he didn't do that. He painted lines on the field. Come on. This is just crazy, and it's bureaucracy gone amok. So he deserved far better than this. He tried to provide help. He tried to give back to the community. They didn't like that because they had a form that said that he wasn't supposed to do that. Absolutely ridiculous. Back when I was a snot-nosed kid in beautiful North Phoenix, Arizona, yeah, sometimes my teachers would ride me home because, I don't know, my parents had a conflict or they forgot that I was done for my field trip 2 hours early. This is what a good teacher, a good coach, a good mentor does for kids. So despite being let go by these short-sighted bureaucrats, good for you, Teddy Bridgewater. Yes, you're headed back to the NFL, but thank you for helping out American youth, making their life a little better. And if nothing else, they can watch him now with the Bucs and say, all right, that's my coach. He came from where I came from. Maybe I can do it too. So kudos to Bridgewater.
Yeah, absolutely right. He's got a fantastic reputation. He's been one of the stand-up guys around the league over the past several years. And, Jon, this kind of reminds me of what used to be NCAA violations with, buying a kid a burger. I remember there's a story in the Detroit Free Press, Mitch Albom, the legendary sports writer, up there, he was walking with Chris Webber, who was part of the Fab Five at Michigan one day. And Mitch Albom had to buy Chris Webber lunch because Chris Webber didn't have money. But they were walking by the Michigan apparel store where his jersey's on sale for however much money, and he didn't get any cut of it. Now, things have loosened up a lot with college athletics, and obviously these players are making serious bank, especially the good ones. And so in some ways that's good. The portal's kind of crazy, and so nobody knows who's on anybody's team anymore until the last second before the season starts. But maybe we need something like this in high school. I didn't think so. I don't think he's looking for a competitive advantage other than keeping his players alive by making sure they get home okay and getting a couple of good meals a day. Just crazy.
Exactly. And yeah, once again, Bridgewater shows the best of what can. NFL gets a lot of bad press. They have a lot of players who make poor decisions being so young and so successful. But yeah, Bridgewater is one of the good guys, and get out of his way. Let him help the youth of America,
especially in areas that need a lot of help like that. So, Jon, always great to have you with us. Have a fantastic weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Always a great time, Greg. Thank you.
Thanks, Jon. Jon Gabriel. He is the undisputed king of stuff. He's also a columnist for the Arizona Republic and Discourse Magazine with the Mercatus Center. And of course, he's the author of Sink the Rising Sun, submarine novel about World War II. If you haven't already got it, Go order it now. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks so much for being with us today. Please subscribe to the 3 Martini Lunch podcast. If you don't already, tell your friends about us as well. Thanks also for your 5-star ratings and your kind reviews. Please keep those coming. Get us on your home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch podcast. Follow us both on X. He's at XJon, EXJON. I'm at Greg Corombos. And of course, Jim is at Jim Garrity. Have a fantastic weekend. Join us again on Monday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.